Risky Business Taking Risks in Production. My name is Leemay Nassery, and I'm an engineering manager at Comcast.
Hello, I'm Mathew Hawthorne, and I am an engineer at Comcast. This is an axis of risk appetite. I used to work at Netflix, and at one of our quarterly meetings, Reed Hastings put this up on the screen, and it was a quarter where Netflix was not doing particularly well. And he asked us to think about where we saw Netflix on this axis. And the larger point he was making was more companies fail from being too timid rather than too bold. And most companies fail anyway. So you might as well, if you're going to fail, might as well fail being bolder rather than more timid. You, anyone that's watching this right now, you're on this axis somewhere. And so I think it's a good thought exercise for all of us to think about where are we on this axis and why are we in that spot? To me, risk is probability of failure. It's also about severity of failure. And failure is contextual. And that's what we're going to talk about today in detail is there's, product failure versus operational failure versus personal failure are very different things with very different repercussions. And so that's the way that we're going to break it down. And so Leemay, can you talk to us about the specific, the example we're going to use for our story of risk?
Yeah, so along those lines, in different contexts in which we'll talk about risk, we'll also talk about our own risk story. And so what that was at Comcast was we introduced a highly personalized for you experience into our Comcast X1 on-demand platform. So giving a little bit of context in case you don't have X1 or you don't know what Comcast does, we have a video product in which customers can browse for TV shows and movies that they'd like to watch. And as you can see from this lovely screenshot that we took, there's a for you experience at the beginning of that experience. And that was the result of all of our hard work and the risks that we took to introduce it into our platform. So we're going to talk a little bit about how risk was a big aspect of this change. All right, so jumping right into product risk. What is product failure? It's creating a product that people do not want. We can't really help you with that. Or it's creating a product that people want, but delivering it in an ineffective way. Or it's creating a product that people want and delivering it in an effective way, but less effectively than your competitors. So how to know if you're not taking enough product risk? I think this is a really good question. I think this question doesn't apply just to products. So I'm not even a product owner. I'm an engineering manager, but this is something that engineers that are building products that customers use should think about. You have no unanswered questions. For example, what percentage of users use feature A versus feature B? You have no new features ever fail. So some A/B tests should fail, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. And some features should be killed. It's okay to deprecate features as your product evolves. That means that you're getting better at what you're building for your customers. So one of the solutions is collection and analysis of usage data. What I mean by usage data is how your customers are engaging with the platform that you've built or the product that you've built. A/B testing is a specific approach to usage data analysis. A/B testing is also a strategy for both risk mitigation. So not only is it a way to collect data on how your product is being used or your feature is being used, but it's also a way to mitigate risk.
Yeah, so with A/B testing, there's it's likely going to slow you down, versus A/B testing versus not A/B testing. But I think the goal would be you learn more from each of the features that you're rolling out. And so I think there's three different ways that you can look at balancing the features that you're launching with what you're learning from those features. You can launch a lot of stuff but not learn anything. I suspect this is what a lot of companies are doing. You launch things, but you don't have a lot of information about how the launch of a specific feature might change the way the customers interact with your stuff. Mm-hmm. You can launch nothing, but learn a lot. So, imagine taking a quarter and saying, we're going to take a break from launching features and we're just going to learn stuff. We're going to focus on getting better metrics and things like that. Or you can, and that might not be feasible at a lot of companies. They might not like the idea of not launching anything. Or you can take a more balanced approach, which is what I call launch a little, learn a little, where maybe you say, we're going to launch a few less features, but we're going to learn a lot more from each of them. So it's a sort of a best of both worlds approach. To me, not A/B testing is the riskiest thing you can do. You know, if you're not A/B testing, I don't see how you're deciding what to launch. I don't see how you're evaluating how the things that you're launching are impacting your customers and whether what you launched was actually a good decision or not.
It's kind of like the responsible thing to do, right?
Yeah.
To A/B test.
Yeah, I think so.
Building.
Go ahead. So Leemay, can you talk to us about the specific product risks of this For You launch?
Yeah, definitely. So circling back to this feature that we built, this For You experience, there's a lot of risk in building this experience. So coming from our perspective, we are an engineering team that had built a bunch of Spark jobs, a bunch of like a platform, a web service, a bunch of components to facilitate personalization or recommendations to improve our content discovery experience. And the next goal is we wanted it to be used. And that's where we're at. How can we get this product or these features in front of our customers to get customers to the content we know they love quicker? So what that involved was A/B testing, usage data, and again, a lot of risk. So from a product perspective, changes were often made, but not necessarily measured. Also, making product decisions on a platform that didn't historically utilize A/B testing to make changes was a risk. And it was a risk because it's a mind shift that you go from, instead of pushing out features based on like just decisions made by individuals, to pushing out features based on data, right? And along those lines, we leverage data from the A/B test to improve the ordering of the personalized algorithmic rows represented. And we alluded to this at the beginning when we were saying A/B testing is not also a way to mitigate risk, but it's also a way to collect data. We did exactly that. So not only did we release this wonderful For You experience that's personalized, getting content to the customers that we know they really like, it's also a way that we improved that specific feature by looking at the engagement within those rows. So Matt, do you want to tell us a little bit about risk from an operational perspective?
Absolutely, I would love to. So operational failure to me is system malfunction that results in an unsatisfactory experience for an unacceptable percentage of your users. I think it's either some errors for too many users or it's too many errors for some users, and both of those are things you would like to avoid. So in terms of how to know that you're taking enough operational risks, I think one signal that you're not is nothing ever fails, like 0% errors for all of your customers. I think that's a bit counterintuitive. I think it's natural to think, well, no errors is good, right? That's our goal, with 0% errors, 10 nines of uptime. But to me, if nothing ever fails and your error rate is that low, that's probably a sign that you're moving too slowly. You're not moving fast enough. You're not pushing hard enough. That said, different products have different acceptable error thresholds. We work in the video streaming world versus something like a bank or like an airplane navigation system. An error means very different things. For us, you click play on a video and it doesn't play. That's unpleasant.
It's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world.
Right.
Versus if you're in an airplane pilot clicking the descend button or whatever and the plane not descending, that could be the end of your world if you're the person on that plane. So, I think it's important to keep in context the industry that we work in has definitely influenced our take on risk. You probably don't have time to be 100% sure that what you're about to launch is not going to fail. If you think about the amount of time it would take you to be 100% sure that what you're going to launch is safe could be the exact amount of time it takes for your company to fail because all of your competitors are launching more stuff than you. You don't have that amount of time. You have to move faster. And so to me, the solution or one of the solutions is move fast, but pursue failures, but limit the blast radius of those failures. And so I'm going to go through a bunch of techniques to achieve this operationally. I think maybe the most important one is quick rollback, that whatever you roll out, you need to be able to roll it back quickly. And so if you think about like having a bunch of QA to verify that what you're about to roll out is going to work, that QA is going to fail sometimes anyway. Like you're not going to catch everything, in which case you need to roll back. So why not instead invest that time into being able to roll back quickly? And you could even do less QA. You can roll back. Maybe you don't need as much QA. Roll back quickly, that is. So gradual deployments. If you're in multiple data centers, you do one at a time. just to make sure that your deployments are not an all or nothing affair, that you can roll it out gradually, look at your metrics, and engage how things are going. Canaries are maybe a more specific type of gradual rollout, where you can imagine rolling your new stuff out to a single node. So if you have like a 100 node cluster, you put your new stuff on one node that's going to take 1% of traffic. Mm-hmm. You can also have something, I'm calling it a sessionized canary. I know at Netflix we call it a sticky canary. And the concept here is, instead of 1% of traffic going to the new stuff, it would be 1% of your users. Mm-hmm. And the idea there is that'll allow you to catch a different class of bug where they might be more session-based or more nuanced. You could think of an A/B test kind of like a persistent sessionized canary, where some subset of your users are going to this new code, new feature, whatever, all of the time. Anomaly outlier detection, whether it's servers or regions or users or whatever attribute you're looking at. If you have one server that goes bad, you want that information to be pushed onto you. You don't want to have to go and hunt for it. If you have a certain user or like a class of users, maybe users that are in a certain A/B test whose latency is higher, you want that information to be pushed to you so you can see, oh, maybe something is wrong here. Or maybe things are just slower in one Amazon region, for example, latency is higher, talking to S3 or something like that. You'd like that information to be pushed to you as opposed to having to go and hunt for it. Chaos engineering, which I see as proactive failure simulations. The idea here is you want to identify proactively the error situations that you expect to see in prod or that you could see, and then simulate those things. Some companies might call those war games or something like that. Circuit breakers and fallbacks, I think, are something that I think is very much in line with chaos engineering. You think about your system boundaries, like one system making a network call to another system where your network latency can increase, or maybe your connection pools get overloaded or something. You want to wrap that in a circuit so they can automatically trip if your latency gets too high, if your error rate gets too high. And therefore you can fall back to a degraded experience, which is better than an error. You know, maybe it's
like in the personalization context, instead of personalized, it's popularity.
Yeah, you fall back to popularity, or you just fall back to some default list of content of some sort. Right. Something is better than nothing, right? Totally. And I think dynamic configuration is in line with this, and that being able to modify the behavior of your system at runtime as opposed to needing a whole new deployment. You know, for example, tripping a circuit at runtime. Ideally, that would happen automatically, but I definitely have seen situations with an incident. You got to go in and trip that thing manually. You want to be able to do that. You don't want to have to do a deployment to accomplish that.
And from like the For You experience that we shipped into our content discovery platform, feature flag was a big aspect of our deployments, right? Like we would just push changes and just like enable it on one box just because we didn't have time to QA it, right?
Absolutely. And I think scope configuration fits in with this too, in that maybe you want to change that config in just a single AWS region or availability zone, or just on a single server to test it out first. I've definitely seen this during production incidents where let's try tripping the circuit just in one availability zone and see if that improves things. And if it does, then we're more confident rolling that out globally. You know, sometimes you try something during an incident and it actually makes things worse. So this is a way of mitigating the risk of resolving incidents. So let's get a little more specific about the way we dealt with operational risks within this For You launch example. So in this situation, we had to launch quickly. We were concerned about some stakeholders maybe changing their mind and saying, wait, don't launch this. We needed to get it out. And we had limited metrics. You know, we had what we had. You go to war with the army that you have. We did not have time to add a bunch of new metrics to see the operational aspects of launching this. So we time boxed our capacity planning. We said, but think about if you only had 1 week and you had to launch something, what would you look at? You know, time is not, you don't have infinite time to plan for this. You have to do it quickly. And what's an aggressive but sane rollout strategy? We want to roll it out quickly, but we prefer not to cause errors. You know, if we see an error, we can roll it back. It's not the end of the world, but we prefer not to see that. And so for this example, we doubled our allocation every week for 6 weeks or something like that. So the first question we asked was, do we have enough servers? How do we know? I think we looked at our CPU graphs and it looked reasonable enough. We feel like we're okay. We'll be able to handle the increase in requests. But let's say we miscalculate and we actually do need more servers. What's the process for getting more servers? You know, maybe, is it just scaling an AWS? Do we need to provision new hardware in our data center? So we were at least ready to do that if we needed to. How close are we to capacity in our data storage systems, which for us, it was Couchbase at the time. Our HTTP connection pools, how close are they to our configured limit? We don't want to hit that limit and start serving a bunch of errors. Also, overall capacity to our downstream systems that we were going to increase requests to as a part of this launch. Like, do we think they can handle this load? Should we talk to them about it? If we talk to them about it, are they going to say, wait, don't launch this thing? You have to gauge these things. Again, it's risk. In the end, everything worked. You know, we thought about it, we time boxed our capacity planning, we did all these things I mentioned, and we did not have to roll back for technical reasons. That aspect of it worked very smoothly. Did we get lucky? Not sure. I mean, I don't look at it that way. I think there's a little bit of luck involved in it.
It was a lot of hard work.
It was a lot of hard work, and if we were a little lucky,
just a little bit luck.
Who cares? Maybe it doesn't matter. So Leemay, can you talk to us about personal risk?
Yes. All right, so what is personal failure? It's not learning anything. That really sucks. No one wants to not learn anything. It's no novel experiences. That also sucks. Like, I don't want to be in that state where I don't have any novel experiences to talk about. No new knowledge or skills. This is something that I have nightmares about. I don't want to ever get in a state where I'm not learning. It's an uncomfortable feeling, I feel. It's like it's just the same thing over and over again. So what's the solution? Do stuff, ask questions, pursue failure.
You like this guy.
Or something like that. Yeah, I don't know. So don't work on the same thing for 5+ years unless you really want to. And the story I have in my head is that I kind of created a rotational program while I'm at Comcast, so that I could experience different projects, still with under the content discovery umbrella. So I didn't really leave the org until later in my career, but it was a way for me to gain different experiences to keep learning. But if you're happy in your team and you're going there for more than 5 years and you feel like you're learning, then that's great too. So being a domain expert is comfortable, but are you growing? And I think this is something that lead engineers or managers that were originally lead engineers often feel. And I felt this, when I was in the content discovery world and on our video product, I feel like I knew our API, I knew our domain, I knew our everything about the platform, all the different web services that were involved to make it all work. I knew it so well. But at some point I'm am I growing? Am I learning new stuff? Am I going into meetings, not having to prepare? Are we talking about things we talked about 2 years ago we're still trying to solve? What is that? How does that feel? And what do you do?
Yeah, and there's that quote, you should always want to be the worst player in your band.
Right.
Right. And I think that's relevant here, that if you always feel like you're the smartest person in the room, or maybe you have the most domain knowledge, that's a comfortable feeling.
Right.
Is that a feeling that you want?
And then there's the whole you're a domain expert, but do you have skills that you could apply outside of your company? You might know your API or your platform really well, but how does that translate to actual experiences outside of that? Right. All right, Matt. So can you tell us a little bit about personal consequences of pursuing risk?
Yes, and I've been this guy getting walked out. It's unpleasant, but maybe it's worth the risk. So if you think about, so you just talked about the high level, how to approach personal risk in your career, but I think this is more addressing, if you follow some of these approaches we've talked about for product risk and operational risk, what are the potential repercussions of those within your given organization? And so you can imagine if you start asking a bunch of product questions or advocating for A/B testing or advocating for data collection, you might start catching heat from product or business colleagues who don't like justifying their decisions with data. They've just been launching stuff for years, not having to answer questions about it, not having to provide data, how things are better now after launching it than they were before. They're not necessarily going to like you asking questions. You might start getting uninvited to meetings. You might not be a part of those product conversations anymore. Maybe you're okay with that, maybe you're not. It's something that you certainly want to consider. If following some of the operational stuff we've talked about causes outages, if you're in a culture where the goal is 0 outages and they think that's actually a realistic goal, or that they don't understand the nuances of incidents that all incidents are not created equal.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have 0 incidents and also launch stuff in a reasonable amount of time. The goal, I think, should be to learn things from incidents, and you should be getting better at handling incidents. The way I've seen it is your incidents should be getting weirder over time, requiring a mixture of events that cause very bizarre things to happen. That's actually what you want. You want to get to a point where you're not having simple outages anymore. But if, again, the goal from executives or something like that is no outages, they're not going to like you if you're advocating things that are causing more outages. So it's something that you're going to need to be conscious of. So Leemay, can you talk about some of the personal risks you saw as a part of the 4U launch?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the reasons why I love this story of launching 4U was not only was it a risk from an engineering perspective. I mean, this is the first time we were really trying to use our platform, really trying to push our services and our platform to the limit. But also there was the product perspective, which we've already touched upon. And adding all that together, there is a huge personal risk by making these changes. And it's exactly what Matt was alluding to earlier. So with this, the A/B test we introduced was the age-old battle of editorial curation versus algorithms. So the screenshots that we've been showing historically, if you take 4U out of the picture, it was a highly curated editorial experience. And then introducing algorithms into the mix it's changing it up. And how do you make that change on a platform that historically didn't measure the changes to the full extent or didn't really use A/B testing? These are you're changing the way we're doing things, and changing the way we do things is hard, especially when there's a lot of stakeholders involved, each with different agendas. So you may improve the customer experience, but then at what personal cost? All right, so to conclude what I was just trying to say is you could become a catalyst of organizational transformation, or you could become a person with many enemies, or you could become both. And again, that's why I really love this 4U launching story. I grew in so many different ways. The team grew in some of the platform. Growing even just the number of requests we were receiving that were personalized. There's a lot of growth that happened in this experience, but especially in the career, the personal perspective. You learn how data isn't enough sometimes. You have to tell a different story. You have to figure out what drives this person to do what they do. What KPIs are they looking at that we're not looking at? There's just a lot of risk in all of what we did.
And the choice is yours for what type of engineer, manager, director, whatever that you want to be, and how much risk you want to take. So we'll do some closing thoughts here to wrap things up. So let's go back to this risk axis that we started with. I think the overall point here is that you should choose your location on this axis deliberately. And being cautious is fine in lots of contexts. We talked about, if you're a bank, I think you have to be cautious. If you're an engineer at a bank, and also being bold means different things in different contexts. I think the idea here is think about where you want to be, and think about where you are, think about where you want to be, and what do you need to do to get there within your organization. We talked about a lot of different techniques here on the product side, like data collection, A/B testing, asking questions. On the operational side, Canaries, gradual rollouts, circuit breakers. Right. But you have to scale this stuff to your organization because all organizations are different. So in terms of what you can do, maybe A/B testing is too much. In that case, you can focus on collecting better usage data. If collecting better data is too challenging or people just aren't into it, you can try asking some questions. Try asking, why do you think it's important that we build this feature versus another one? Again, there might be repercussions of asking these questions. People might not like you asking these questions, but it's something you can do. Moving more into the operational space, if random chaos is too much, you can do scheduled chaos. And I think in my time at Netflix, for the larger chaos exercises, they were still scheduled. We would do it once a month, I think. Some companies, like at Comcast, we do war games that are more monthly, quarterly, I forget. But they're certainly scheduled. You know, at least within a rough date range when it's going to happen. If Canaries dynamic config, if that isn't getting traction in your org for whatever reason, you can simply ask the question, well, how do we get stuff into prod faster? What else can we do if not Canaries? What else can we do if not dynamic config? Because that's the fundamental thing we're trying to get to, is moving faster. Maybe in your org, there's a different path to achieving these things. And if you want to take more personal risks, it can be as simple as asking yourself, what do I want to build? What's interesting to me? What specific area am I most drawn to? What type of engineer do I want to be, or manager? How do I want to see myself, or want other people to see me? I think if you start asking yourself these questions, the answers will become more clear. And we believe in you. You can do it. You can figure it out. Thank you.
Thank you.